Hello everyone. George DeSantis here with the look of the market for the week ending June 25th, 2021. I usually try to do these every week, but sometimes I don't. I haven't done one since about May 14, so that's quite a while ago. So I thought I'd do one today. Um, get caught up on what's happening. So before we do that, before we look at charts, etc., let me bring up this disclaimer and just realize that I'm not attempting to give any particular person professional investment advice here because I'm not a professional investment advisor. I'm a psychologist. I do this for my own purposes and share it with family and friends. It's a YouTube video. Anyone can look at it, make of it what they will. So we'll begin to look at some charts. For those who are viewing this for the first time, let me explain that what I try to do is review the general market by looking at the S&P and sometimes the Nasdaq, and um, and then go on to look at some other charts with individual stocks, etc. So we usually start with a weekly chart of the S&P 500 as a representation of the general market, and we use candlestick charts. So what you can see here is, first of all, let's look at the moving averages. The 4 exponential moving average is a yellow line. It's above the 9 exponential moving average, that red line. And those two are above the 30 weighted moving average. So insofar as moving averages are concerned, on the weekly chart, we still have a nice uptrend that started way back when, because the 4 never crossed below the 9 and the 9 never crossed below the 30 since all the way back here when we started rallying after that pullback last March. So we've been in this nice long uptrend here for quite a while, for over a year now. If you're a long-term investor and not a trader as such, then certainly you didn't get whipsawed out of this market. You held your stocks, and if you can, assuming that you had pretty good stocks and saw them go up. All right. So at the end of on the right side of the screen, as my friend Alex would say, we have a very bullish candle here as of last week, and it's almost completely engulfing the body of this candle here. So this is called a bullish engulfing candle. And so as the term implies, it's bullish, we should go higher, etc. Um, Now we can also see that the parabolic, these white dots, the parabolic is still below the most recent bars, indicating that there is no reason to switch and reverse to a downtrend. And that's what the parabolic SAR means, okay? Switch and reverse, stop and reverse, sorry, stop and reverse. No need to stop and reverse here because the parabolic is below last week's bar. So all of that supports an uptrend. Now, if we go down to the other indicators, and before we leave this, you could see that on the weekly chart, we still have a ways to go from this area here to 4,400, which is a level that many people are predicting we would get to. Okay, so that's about where 2 standard deviations is. That green dotted line would be 4,400, just approximately that. You recall that I sent you an email recently saying that Raymond James, the folks at Raymond James are predicting um, has a target of about 4,400. So we have a ways to go to get there. About 200 points, I would imagine, you know. Let's see, 43, at least 100 points on the S&P. That's a lot. That's like 1,000 points on the Dow. All right, let's go down here. We're looking at ADX. ADX is trending down. And the reason that it's not trending up as it did here is because we were in this long trading range. We've been in a trading range now, bumping up against resistance of this 4215 level here, which was a target set from a head and shoulder pattern on the daily chart. So we've now surpassed that 4215 level and closed at 4280, last week, this past week. That's pretty bullish. We're breaking through resistance. Now, as we go down to this, again, if we go down to the ADX, you can see that ADX has been trending down, but the DI plus is still above DI minus. I would anticipate that should this bullish engulfing candle foretell a continuation of an uptrend, we will soon see ADX trending up, confirming the uptrend. Now, if we go down to the triple momentum indicator, you could see that Jerry Appel's triple momentum indicator is still above 4%, and therefore the momentum of this trend that started way back here, okay, in June of July, according to the momentum indicator, is still in place. Now, going down to MACD, we can see that MACD gave us sell signals here on both the 1226.9 and the 1939.9. It's just slightly negative. It's minus 0.32, but it's negative. It's a sell signal, and we should take that as a heads up, you know. However, when you're looking at charts, you're trying to see what is the consensus of opinion of all these indicators. And it would seem to me that the consensus is that we continue this uptrend. And only time will tell if that turns out to be so. Now, let's take a look at a daily chart. On the daily chart, what we see here is that the 4 EMA dropped below the 9 briefly here, but now it resumed its uptrend here by crossing above the 30 and the 9, and it looks as though the trend is continuing here. We're hitting the 2 standard deviation line. However, we should note that if we go back in time, you could see that oftentimes when a new trend is beginning and we come out of a low volatility squeeze here, right, we ride that 2 standard deviation line up for a while. So it doesn't mean that we're going to necessarily pull back because we are hitting the 2 standard deviation line. Notice how volatility decreased here as opposed to here, okay? So it looks as though we are coming out of a bit of a squeeze here, and we are likely to ride the 2 standard deviation line up from here. Notice that parabolic is still below the most recent bars. There's a daily chart, so for the last 4 days, the parabolic has been trending up, has been indicating an uptrend, okay? Now, if we go down to the ADX, here, you can see that we are starting an uptrend here. DI plus is above DI minus, and the ADX histogram is now trending up. And that's a good sign. That's changing the direction of the trend on the ADX as well. In addition to that, if you go down to the MACD histogram, the 1226.9, the one we take buy signals from, we just got a buy signal on Friday. So this is the one we take buy signals from. So on the daily chart, we are getting a buy signal. And of course, daily charts will give you earlier signals than weekly chart because each bar represents 1 day's data. Now, if we go back up here to the momentum indicator, the triple momentum indicator, you can see that we just crossed above 4%. And we did it in a more convincing manner than we did over here. So this looks as though we are heading to a new continuation of a new uptrend here, coming out of a squeeze, etc. It should only work. All right. So let's take a quick look at Jake Bernstein's charts. This is a weekly chart of the S&P. And you can see that the first thing I notice is we have this nice bullish engulfing candle. We don't have a sell signal here at all because we would need 2 complete successive bars, okay, to give us a setup. And we would need this accumulation distribution line to drop below the moving average, and that we don't have, okay? And if we look below here, we can see that stochastic is still above 80%, and it's now crossing above the signal line. So Jake Bernstein is saying to us, we're breaking above that 42.15 level, and we don't have a sell signal. Let's look at the daily chart. On the daily chart, we had a little pullback here, and we didn't get two consecutive bars on the daily chart below the 8-day moving average of the lows, right? We would need two consecutive complete bars below that line, and we didn't get it. And in fact, we also didn't get a continuation of this below the moving average. Now we have a setup here, which means that the AD line is above the moving average. We had a setup beginning here, right? And now we have two successive complete bars above the moving average of the high, the 10-day moving average of the high. That's a buy signal, folks. That's great. We also want to take a look at the stochastic. Stochastic just crossed above the signal line here, and that's bullish. So this chart is also indicating to us that we should feel pretty confident that this trend should continue. So let's take a look at the NASDAQ on Jake Bernstein. I'm going to look at the triple Qs, okay? It's just the triple leveraged ETF of the NASDAQ, of the QQQs. So on Jake Bernstein's chart, we had a candle, okay? A triangle, okay? And we broke out of the triangle. And now we are getting bars above the 10-week moving average of the highs. And we have a target from the triangle of 127. So if you bought the Qs like I did, I own these TQQQs. I trade that, okay? And I'm going to do a special video later on and send it to you on this concept of trading the Qs and what do we use for stops, etc. But if you look here, you will see that we fell in between these two lines here, the 10-week moving average of the highs and the 10-week moving average of the lows. And Jake Bernstein himself likes to buy in this area, in the channel, inside the channel. So buying here, he claims, is a more conservative trade than buying when you wait for two consecutive bars above the 10-week moving average of the highs. But in any case, what I'd like to point out here is that this is the 3-week moving average of the lows. And if you're trading off the weekly chart, you have this as a possible stop loss order. I'll cover that, as I said, in a separate video later on. I hope to do that later on. So this is a weekly chart, and if you go down here, you can see the accumulation distribution line remains above the moving average, and the stochastic crossed above its signal line here. So this is confirming what we were talking about earlier. We have a target of 127. We have another 10 points to go on the Qs. That would be nice. Let's look at the daily chart. So on the daily chart, you could see that we had a setup here because the 80 line is above the moving average, right? And we currently have 4 complete bars above the moving average of the highs. So we had a setup and we have a trigger to buy the NASDAQ or the general market. And as it's often said, the NASDAQ leads the market, the rest of the market. And if you look at the stochastic, you can see stochastic is crossed over the signal line here too. So we remain above 80%, and Jake Bernstein uses this here stochastic to maintain the trend. In other words, as an indication the trend is still up. So let's move on. So let's turn to Shaken Analytics and take a look at some individual stocks and ETFs, etc. The first thing, well, before we go to Shaken, let's go to the sector analysis, okay? You can see that the ETFs that did best on Friday, one day, right, was the financials and the utilities, the real estate, and The staples did well, consumer staples and discretionary did well too. Now, if you go, I don't trade off of one day. I usually look at 1 month. And so when you look at 1 month's performance of these ETFs, I own these here, XLY. I own XLE. Um, I don't own XLF, but I think I'm going to have to switch to soon to XLF. And also I own XLK. So I own four of them, XLC, XLY, XLE, and XLK. I should point out that on this, when you go to this website, you also get a very useful, in my opinion, a very useful list of stocks and their performance. In this case, their performance for the month. Look at the stocks are performing in their 30s and 20s and double digits, and they give you the whole list here. So it's done the research here for you. Okay, so if you just go to the sector tracker ETF, that's a spiders, okay, ETFs, and put that icon on your screen, and all you have to do is click on it. This comes up. You can go to 1 day's performance, 1 month's performance. Let's go to Shaken. On Shaken, this is my major watch list here. I have over, I don't know, 120 something stocks or more, okay? Yeah, about 120 stocks. And you can see what they did for the week, the stocks on the major watch list that I have. I own this, DDS, Dillard's, have a nice gain. This is a biotech that is very cheap. One of my nephews recommended it, and it's very volatile. It's up and down, doesn't go very far. And all of these other stocks here, you can see how they perform: Moderna, Peloton, CRISPR, Alcor, etc. All the way down. BioNTech, Etsy, etc. Here's Tesla, and now if you look at how the whole list performed for the week, take a look. Very few stocks on the list lost money for the week. That's damn impressive, in my opinion, if I may say so myself. Now, last week I created a list of stocks that met many of the criteria on Shaken for buy signals, right? Stocks that are bullish and very bullish for the most part, with a few exceptions that were neutral, okay? And they also had they were also bullish on the triple momentum indicator that I discussed earlier, Jerry Appel's triple momentum indicator on TC2000. And if you want to see how they did last week, here's how they did. Wish was up 23%, Dillard's, as I saw earlier, 19%, Roku 16%, Riley 11, etc., etc. And very few none of these stocks were bearish. Now, what I'm considering is this. I'm going to leave this list as it is here for the coming week, because it doesn't mean these stocks are going to all of a sudden fall out of bed. But I will do my research again, look for bullish and very bullish stocks on Shaken, and look for stocks that are also giving us a nice look on the triple momentum indicator on TC2000. I'll create a whole new list and I'll email it to you. But in the meantime, if you want, we could take a look at some of them on the watch list. You could see how they performed. You could see how on Friday most of these stocks were up on Friday, and for the week all of them were up, every one of them. I own quite a few of these stocks. I own Lilly, I own InMode, let's see, Microsoft, I own Target, I own SIG, Signet Jewelers, etc., Facebook, and Dillard's, and I trade BioNTech. Right now, I don't own it, but I look to buy it again. Okay, you can see that BioNTech came back down to the 21-day moving average after having these nice run-ups here. They consolidate, run up, consolidate, and it's ready to move again, coming out of a triangle. you can see that we're gonna be able to plot a triangle with a target of somewhere north of about 260 or 270, I would think. So we'll send you an email with that list. But these stocks all look very good for the coming week. So I think I'm going to end here. I'll make a separate video with that and with the uh, with the sell signals as I promised on TQQQ or on any ETF or stock. So have a good day, and we'll do this hopefully in another week or two. And good trading. Good luck.